Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get in the Garage.
We're a music podcast.
For music lovers.
Thank you very much. Jeff is not here at the moment. He had an emergency, but he should be back for half number 2. So we brought Alex in front of the camera. Alex's camera debut, his podcast.
Jazz hands.
Camera.
Jazz hands.
Debut. So welcome to Alex. We've got a great show planned for you guys today. But before we get into all of that, please remember to like and comment and subscribe.
And tell people about our podcast.
Tell people about our podcast. Do you have a special person to listen to the podcast this week, Luke?
Tell somebody that forges iron.
Wow.
Ooh, a blacksmith.
Ooh.
Yes.
Medieval
Someone
days.
called them a blacksmith. Someone that forges iron. Tell them to listen to our podcast. They will love it. It is about music. Stay informed. We have music news every week.
Yes. We've got a great show planned.
Yes.
Right? What else are we doing? Because we got music news, but we have a couple other fun segments
We
today.
are going to go over the year 1998, everything that
What a year.
happened musically.
The year Alex was born, just to throw that out there.
98.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
And then we are going to choose our favorite albums from said year. Then we are going to go full on Iggy Pop and talk about the new Iggy Pop album.
Yep.
We are going to talk about the Stooges debut record, and then we are also going to touch on Iggy's classic Lust for Life.
Yes, it's an
So,
Iggy Fest.
It will be an Iggy Pop fest in the second half of the show. Hopefully Jeffrey makes it back for that.
Yes. Let's roll the music.
Roll the music. Give us that theme song. Wow.
What
What a great audience.
All right, there we are.
So I would like to open up the show
Okay.
with a rest in peace.
Yes, the breaking news.
Yes.
Breaking news.
Jeff Beck has passed. This was released about an hour ago of the show, and this show is recorded on 1/11/2023. So he passed yesterday, which would have been the 10th. It said he had
I got you. Bacterial meningitis.
bacterial
That's what it was.
meningitis. Thank you.
Yeah, a sudden.
Really short.
Yes, so he
Some
was of
case.
old age and is very sad. One of the most iconic guitar players of all time, if not the most iconic guitar player of all time. He joined the Yardbirds in 1965 after Eric Clapton left the band. He was suggested by Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page, who were studio musicians who thought very highly of him.
Yeah.
He went on to form the Jeff Beck Group with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood. And then would go on to do albums such as Blow by Blow, and in the 70s, and that's produced by George Martin, who is
really?
the Beatles producer.
Was that
Yes.
released on Apple?
No, that's released on Epic Records.
Okay.
But yeah, so very cool album there, and that's all instrumentals and highly fusion and great guitar playing, and it's one of Jeffrey's favorite albums, which is a shame because he was here to talk about it. He loves it so much, but I think we're pretty big Jeff Beck fans here in
I'd
the
say,
room,
yeah.
Especially his early work with the Jeff Beck Group, and it's very sad. If you haven't experienced everything Jeff Beck has to offer, Rod Stewart once rocked his face off, if you've never known, and the Jeff Beck first album, Truth, has great Rod Stewart singing, great Jeff Beck playing on it.
Yeah,
I
Ronnie
love
Wood.
it so much. It's very dear to me and Mike's heart.
For sure. And as a guitar player too, he famously was a Les Paul kind of guy. That's why on the cover of Blow by Blow, you see him holding the Les Paul guitar. But then he moved on to the Strat style thing, and that seemed to have suited his style a lot more in the way that, you've got the whammy bar, the trem bar, whatever you want to call it. He does a lot of interesting things. He's not really, or wasn't really, predominantly pick plectrum, to have the UK term, style of a player. He was sort of like a fingers guy, but he would do all kinds of interesting things with his tone knob and his volume knob. He was always good for like doing something and then hitting a swell and kind of doing some stuff. His later stuff, I wasn't a really huge fan of. Blow by Blow is where things kind of start to take a left turn for me in terms of what I like from Jeff Beck, I would say.
Absolutely.
However, the early stuff, especially Truth, I love that album. I think it was a great match with Rod Stewart, and I think it's one of those things where, like, Eric Clapton did Cream, and then did Blind Faith, and then did, Derek and the Dominoes, and then John Mayall and the Blues Breakers before that. Jimmy Page clearly, obviously had Led Zeppelin after the fact, after Yardbirds came and went. Jeff Beck, I feel like sometimes, he's the guitar player's guitar player. Those who know. But I feel like Jeff Beck and the Rod Stewart and the Ronnie Wood lineup is one of those things that kind of, I don't know if it would, I don't know, would you say gets forgotten about? Because I don't think it's forgotten about. It's just sort of overshadowed by the Clapton thing that happened, and then the Led Zeppelin thing that also happened, so it kind of gets shadowed over.
I think Jeff Beck is more of a solo guitar player as well.
Sure,
because he never did sing, and I feel like he just is, because he did a lot of solo just guitar albums
right
at a point in his career. So I think he's more thought of, like, you're right, as a guitar player, a virtuoso of, if you will.
Yeah, one of the first.
Yes, one of the first big virtuosos. Yeah. Check out like an early virtuoso song, Under, Over, Sideways, Down, has one of the most crazy, complicated riffs of the era.
Right. But if you look at, not to cut you off, but if you look at like Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and John Petrucci, these guys who are like the virtuistic guitar players,
you get Blow by Blow first.
It starts here. This is really, you had John McLaughlin with Mahavishnu Orchestra and stuff, who was doing that for a virtuistic sort of thing. Carlos Santana at the time too, still doing his thing. Eric Clapton, obviously, all of those guys. But it seemed to be sort of I know I keep hitting your mic stand, I'm sorry. It seems to be really like the first kind of like, oh, this is like the guitar player is the guy. Santana had that too, but not like this.
Overshadowed was a good word to say. There was just a lot at that time, and he was a little bit forgotten about. And I want to mention this for Jeffrey as well. He gave me some of his music news today to recite, and I want to mention this because, as we said, big fan of Jeff Beck. Jeffrey is. And he mentioned to me that Blow by Blow is one of his favorite instrumental albums ever, actually.
Yeah.
And he mentioned, he fell in love with it in a cross-country trip when he was 15, and it was just like one of his best. So,
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, Jeff loves that record, man.
I'd also like to shout out the solo of Looking for Another Pure Love on Stevie Wonder's Talking Book is a Jeff Beck solo that I think is... amazing, and another one that I didn't even really know was Jeff Beck till a couple years ago.
And more recently, too, on Ozzy Osbourne's last album, Jeff Beck's got 2 songs, I think, on that record. Right.
Yeah.
And those are great. Those are some of the stronger songs, I think, on the Ozzy record.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
He still had it, and, he will be missed, man.
Yeah.
'Cause that's...
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
That's so sudden.
Yeah. I've got some music news.
Let's hear it.
All right, so Marjorie Taylor Greene is beefing with Dr. Dre. She used the Still Dre track for...
Let's go backwards with that.
Okay.
Dr. Dre is beefing with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, right. Yes.
Right.
Rightfully said. I appreciate the correction.
He sent the cease and desist.
To be fair, I read the headline, so got it together.
My man.
There we go.
I'm just saying.
But no, it's true. And this isn't the first time this thing has happened. Elton John did the same thing to Donald Trump. There's been a couple of different things. I thought I saw
everybody did it to Donald Trump.
Queen did it to Donald Trump,
except the Village People. The Village People were the only band that let Donald Trump use his song, and that's why Donald Trump went out to the YMCA all the time, even though the YMCA is about. It's about men finding love at the YMCA. You can get yourself laid there.
Yeah, but Sting also, because it led me down like a little bit of a rabbit hole.
Yes, please.
So we have Sting versus George Bush and Al Gore. George W. Bush, that is.
Oh.
ABBA versus John McCain. Sam Moore of Sam and Dave versus Barack Obama. Adele.
Come on, man.
No, that's a real thing.
Come on, man. Sam and Dave were like, you can't use it. And he's like, I'm the first black president. And they're like, nope. What? Sam and Dave,
quote,
2 thumbs down.
Quote, I have not agreed to endorse you for the highest office in our land. Added, my vote is a very private matter between myself and the ballot box.
Oh, that's respectful. That's
so
really respectful.
It's right on. But Adele versus Donald Trump.
I'm going to say that Sam and Dave aren't being so right on in that moment. I'm going to double thumbs down Sam and Dave.
Hold on. He's coming. Bobby McFerrin versus George H.W. Bush. Oh, H.W.
Bobby
Senior.
McFerrin.
Yeah.
He was like, "You can't be happy, not you." What a prick!
Yeah.
Continue.
Oh, he's worried and he's not happy.
I'm sorry. Listen,
Queen versus Donald Trump was another one.
I'm just gonna keep on with this one. You can't write a song called "Don't Worry, Be Happy" and then tell which people can be happy and which people can't. Okay, like, sorry.
Except you, asshole.
He's like, there's no instruments in the song. It's all my voice.
One of my favorites, Survivor versus Newt Gingrich, Mitt Romney, and Mike Huckabee for using Eye of the Tiger.
Can't use it at all.
Hart versus Sarah Palin.
Oh, God.
Pharrell Williams versus Donald Trump. And that wraps up at least 11 instances where that has also
Holy
happened.
moly.
But
Thank you.
you know, Dr. Dre had said, "I don't license my music to politicians, especially someone as divisive and hateful as this one." So, different strokes for different folks. Marjorie Taylor Greene is, she's a controversial congresswoman. So I understand it, I suppose. It's one of those things. I mean, really, at the end of the day, my opinion on the whole thing is, regardless of whether or not it's pushing some sort of political thing or not, using music without like going the proper ways to actually like licensing music and stuff like that, I think that is just flat out wrong, regardless of any sort of political leanings or anything like that. Because let's be real, man, who gets screwed over there most of the time anyway? It's the artist. So I agree. I agree with Dr. Dre on this one, man, because he made his money, and don't fuck with his money.
Man.
So there you go.
I got 2 birthdays.
Okay, let's hear the birthdays.
Happy 70th birthday to Pat Benatar.
Oh.
Right on.
One of the biggest hit makers of the early 80s.
Yeah. Also, Love is a Battlefield.
Oh, Love is a Battlefield. Yeah.
Hell is for Children. I think she has a song called Hell is for Children.
That classic track.
Let me check that. Continue.
Yeah, good see.
One more. Happy 75th birthday to Donald Fagen.
The man himself.
Singer, keyboardist, Steely Dan.
Of the Dan, man.
Can't hit on Steely Dan. I think Jeff is one of the top streamers of Steely Dan as well.
yes, he is.
Top 0.0.
They call him Steely Jeff.
Steely Jeff.
Yeah, Pat Benatar definitely has a song called Hell is for Children. Rock on.
Rock and roll, Pat Benatar. Right on.
So,
that's it for me.
I got some more.
Happy birthday. What else is going on, Mike?
Okay. Well, some people may know, some people may not know, but we are fans of the Austin Powers movie franchise, and there is an Elvis Costello and Burt Bacharach box set coming out.
Oh, that's very exciting.
That sounds like fun. It's a collaboration sort of thing. It's a deluxe LP. It's a 2 LP super deluxe, and includes rare photographs, reproduced session notes, and an essay by Costello about working with Bacharach. It's got a bunch of live stuff, classic studio duet stuff. It's huge. It's 4 CDs and 2 LPs.
I'm a pretty big fan of the work they did. I believe they released an album in the late 90s when Austin Powers came out, and then they released, I believe, another one later on in the 2000s. Very exciting that it's going to get like a retrospective box set. I think the sound that they made together was really interesting. It was a growth in Elvis Costello's career, and Burt Bacharach to work with pop, punky attitude musician like Elvis Costello. I think it really gives a cool light, and I mean, I really always love those parts in the movie. And
Mr. Burt Bacharach, Mr. Elvis Costello,
I think gave me my first love for what would be called bossa nova music. So very, very cool, Mike.
When is that coming out?
I'll never fall in love again. Oh, when is it coming out?
Michael.
I didn't get a release date. I am so sorry. I think it's just an announcement. So yeah, it's an announcement. So it doesn't seem like there's a set date for this yet.
Right on. Did you see?
March 3rd. I'm sorry,
news.
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Oh. Did you see the KG Elephant singer got arrested in New York because he had
I did
guns?
see that, and he had like paranoid notes. That's just like, I will defend myself if I have to.
Yes.
So what's going on? That doesn't come from nowhere, man. Maybe he's got a stalker or something.
No. So he found he was in a Manhattan Bowerly hotel, and somebody reported that they saw somebody with a handgun in the lobby. And they investigated, went up to his room and searched it, found the handgun. New York York. I'm not sure of the handgun laws. Guns. You're
Plural.
right.
Whoa.
I'm not sure of the gun laws in New York specifically, but I know that they are
Super
very
strict, right?
very
Isn't New York
strict.
super
Yeah,
strict?
they're
You're like not
relatively
really allowed to
strict,
own
yeah.
guns in the city of New York or walk around with them at
Yeah.
least. You can own them. I definitely don't think you can like walk around with them though. So up to that, he got arrested, and there wasn't a lot of details released, and he did not release anything back. I hope he is okay. I am, I like that band. I think they release some good music, and that's really disappointing if something nefarious happened. Hopefully, it was a misunderstanding. Also, in music news, did you see the Coachella headline was released?
Yes.
Ooh.
Big news. It's like the forecast for the year of like what the industry thinks is hot. Obviously it's K-pop. Blackpink headlining one day, Bad Bunny doing the one day, and then Frank Ocean doing the next.
Oh.
I think
big news. All people of color.
yes, that's what I was
are-
going to say.
Big,
This is
yeah.
the first lineup that does not have
All white.
yeah, all white people.
Or
yeah.
just like
Artists.
so that's interesting. Bjork is top on the list under Frank Ocean. We got Gorillaz under Bad Bunny, and Blackpink has some artists that I don't really know. There is a lot of tiny artists on the list. Some interesting ones I saw were Paris Jackson on
yeah.
the list, which was interesting.
And then one of our favorites,
Horse Girl.
Horse Girl,
Oh.
is very tiny.
going to Coachella.
On the list, so that's cool. Was very into that. The Breeders are also on from the '90s. Kim Deal, Rock On. So a lot of new artists I don't really know, and it's gonna be exciting to see what comes out. There's always going to be like some breakthrough performances of some people you didn't know, so hopefully that happens. And and also Calvin Harris is performing at some point. He's just randomly on the bottom of the flyer.
It is a
says-
terrible flyer, though, isn't it?
I hate the Coachella flyer.
Yeah.
I think it's absolute dog shit
I hope you're
garbage.
right here.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So Coachella, exciting.
I've got I think one more thing here. Do you see Demi Lovato's poster was banned in the UK for being offensive to Christians?
I didn't. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I saw
We'll
the
show the
poster.
picture right there.
It was banned.
It was banned. Yeah, it
Like-
was banned.
Like
banned. I mean, the name of
We're
the
gonna-
album
we're
is
gonna
Holy Fuck.
We're gonna stick it up for you. It's called Holy Fuck.
Yeah, it's called Holy
Yeah,
Fuck.
I mean,
She's laying on a
depiction of
mattress in the
somebody-
shape of a cross, and she's in like bondage type
I'm not offended.
stuff. I mean, I'm not really offended either. What can you do?
I value America's culture and anything goes. Release whatever you want. You may
Within reason.
I'm saying do whatever you want. I don't care. Art is art. Anything to squash the expression.
Yeah.
Also, Madonna did this. Whatever in the 80s, big pop star, religious, kind of motifs in the Like a Prayer video with the burning crosses and all that stuff.
That's right.
So, this is kind of like not that shocking at all. And Marilyn Manson was on like TRL every day. Like, what are we doing?
He was doing some heinous stuff.
Absolutely.
But apparently, the UK's code for non-broadcast advertising says that ads must be prepared with a, quote, sense of responsibility and should not contain anything likely to cause serious or widespread offense.
I mean,
But it's the thing. I mean, really, it's art. It's that.
That's
it's
what
the whole
happens when the
thing.
government
It's-
is kind of mixed in with the. You can't really be. You can release whatever you want, but I guess the BBC isn't gonna promote it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, is it offensive to me? No. Is it offensive to somebody? Probably. But
Yeah, but it's that thing. It's the artistic thing. You're pushing the boundaries. Blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
yeah.
I don't know. I say, hashtag who cares.
Hashtag who cares?
Just let the artists be artistic.
do your thing, 21.
The whole thing. 21.
Absolutely. Do we have anything else?
I don't have anything else.
I have Harry Styles. This is legal news.
Order in the court.
Harry Styles is suing
I did see that.
fake merch on the internet. So he's suing these merchants on the internet that are selling fake Harry Styles merchandise. I'm sure you see them on Facebook and Instagram. It's all these unauthorized merchandisers that are kind of, he believes, ripping off his fans and him by not, getting a cut of those profits.
Sure.
So he is suing. It is unlikely he's suing because I think that he's interested, and his law team is interested in digging up the names of those people that are like running those scams, because they're very widespread. There's so many underground bootleg T-shirts now from bands and artists on the internet, like we see all the time on, like I said, Facebook and Instagram. And I think they're looking to dig some of those names up. So they're hoping the legal system will be able to help in aiding in that process, and to bring some of these things to light. It is unlikely that they will really dig up what's what's going on, because various countries in this and that, and
it's kind of hard to
things of that
if
nature.
It's a multi-international thing,
where's it getting shipped from,
right?
The whole nine,
a lot of these things are multi-step processes where it's maybe like the business is stationed in America, but the process is completely in another country. So
did it mention any like websites in specific?
Very
There's a lot
vague,
out there.
very vague. They didn't really release a lot because I don't think they want to get into it, but it was just an interesting point out.
I'm sure it'll be a public case, so when we hear about it, we should definitely come back to it, because that's big.
Absolutely. Does anybody have anything else?
Zip.
No, I think I'm good. Shall we move on to our?
I have one more thing to share with you guys.
Okay,
I wanted to show you this video here of 1975 singer.
Did you see? Yes.
Yes, right here.
He's straight.
Yep, I'm just gonna do one of these here, and he's reaching out into the audience here. I'm gonna play this for you guys at home, and somebody reaches out and touches his face, and he just full on puts their thumb in his mouth and just sucks it. It's real weird.
All right.
He's getting into it. He's embracing with his fans. The 1975, didn't they cut up meat earlier this year?
He sat on stage and devoured a raw steak in front of like a static television. Yeah,
rock and roll. I have no idea what's going on with the 1975.
We're going to be talking about Iggy later, so
we did review the album, and it seemed very much not on the meat
train,
the meat train, but like the random stranger's thumb in mouth. This guy's all about that all day.
It's a strange move in a post-COVID world.
It's a bold move, Cotton. It's a bold move, Cotton.
Can we get what is the guy's name? The singer for the 1975. His name is Matt.
I don't remember his
name. Give me a name. I need a name. I need it, and I need it now.
The computer today.
I need it, and I need it now.
I can't open page. What's going on here?
Oh my gosh!
What's happening with this thing?
The Wi-Fi.
I'm
on the Wi-Fi.
I am getting this.
So I gotta be behind the computer.
I don't understand what's happening with this thing right now. I need to do an update. Maybe that's what it is.
Oh my god, my man!
I pulled all of my music news up.
Matthew Healy.
Matthew Healy
is the singer for the 1975.
Every time I see it, I think of the Healys.
So Matthew Healy. Here's to more thumbs in mouth for the rest of the year. Let's keep it going. And I'm down for the weird stage antics. So cool. Moving on.
Moving on. All right. So
1998.
Moving on to 1998. So Alex had picked the year. So this is the recurring segment that we've been having, where Alex picks a year and we give you our top albums, what we believe to be our favorite / top albums from that year. The year is 1998 this week. I was a wee lad at 9 years old. Luke was what, 6?
I was not that old. 1992, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98.
6 years old. Alex was 0 for half, and then
2 months old.
A little older than 0 for the. So it was an interesting year. I don't know what you guys thought about it, but I found that there were some slim pickings. There were some big albums, but I think there were some slim pickings too. So
yeah, I'm going to give you the rundown of what 1998 looked like.
Oh yes,
musically.
Please remind me, because it's been a long time, so I need to remember.
1998. This
Alex,
was 1998. The
year
rundown.
Of Alex. What's your sign? Or what's your Chinese zodiac?
Tiger.
The year of the tiger.
The year of the tiger. Here we go.
Eye of the tiger.
Eye of the tiger.
January.
Survivor will sue us.
Was devoid of news. So
January was devoid. January 1998. Nothing's going on.
Nothing really happened. So February 5th, Judas Priest frontman Rob Halford came out as gay for the first time in an MTV interview publicly.
Wow, was that late?
Yes, so that was 1998 that
Wow.
happened. So that was a big moment in metal and music, and I think changed a lot of people's perspective and hearts and minds. And I know a lot of people that me and Michael talk to this day get their opinions based on like him and the way he lives his life. So much respect. Also, shout out to that S&M culture. Rob Halford doing it right.
The leather daddy himself.
Making a bunch of straight dudes dressed like leather daddies. Love
That's
it. February 23rd. Frozen, the first single from Madonna's 8th studio album, Ray of Light, was released. The single is a worldwide hit, peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, and became her first single to enter the charts at number 1 in the UK.
Nice.
That was a huge album, Ray of Light, giant Madonna record. February 24th, Elton John was knighted, a topic we talked about on the show last week. Who was knighted?
That would be Sir. Brian May.
Sir Brian
Sir
May.
Brian May.
That's right.
Thank you.
Of Queen.
Of Queen. Was knighted, but Elton John got his knighting February 24th, 1998. He was knighted by the Queen.
I wonder if he rubbed that in Brian May's face. Like, I was knighted.
Sir Elton John. Very important. February 25th, the 40th Grammy Awards took place. Time Out of Mind by Bob Dylan got Album of the Year.
Oh, I did see that.
Right?
Oh.
And did you see who got Record of the Year?
No.
Do you remember that song? The song is Sean Colvin's Sonny Came Home. Do you know this song?
I don't remember.
It was Record of the Year.
I don't remember it.
Sonny came home with a list of names. You don't remember this song?
Oh,
Sonny
yeah. That was it.
That was Record of the Year.
Sonny came
A
home.
song I barely remembered.
That one really stood the test of time, didn't it?
Very 1998. So that was that. March 3rd, Ray of Light ends up being released. It sells 16 million copies.
Wow.
It was produced by William Orbit. And she converted to Kabbalah that year, so that was also very exciting, very zeitgeisty. I do remember the Kabbalah bracelets, very big. So March 17th, Van Halen 3 is released with Gary Cherone on lead vocals. Let's get excited for Van Halen 3.
Boo.
Boo this man.
Boo this man.
Boo this
David
man.
Lee Roth, get the fuck out of here.
Sammy Hagar if needed. March 24th,
Close
NSYNC
second.
releases their debut album, NSYNC. So we were getting into boy band mode at that point.
Yeah.
April 3rd, Dave Navarro is fired from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh.
To which most people go, Dave Navarro was in the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Check out One Hot Minute. Music is my aeroplane, bro. So what else do we got here? April 7th, George Michael is arrested in Beverly Hills, California for lewd conduct in the public restroom. A shame on those people. Just trying to have a good time. April 14th, he was a good man. And they also outed him too. That's what outed George Michael, I believe.
No.
Yes, was that
Really?
incident. Yeah. So
Oh, that's kinda
on
messed
top
up.
of that incident happening, that's what outed George Michael,
Wow.
which was completely weird and inappropriate for that to
Yeah.
happen because he was just trying to get his
good-
rocks off, man. April 14th, the first VH1's Divas Live happened. I don't know if you remember this concert series, but as a child, it was
I
very
do.
big and made the Divas thing. Aretha Franklin performed Gloria Estefan, Celine Dion, Shania Twain, and Mariah Carey, which really
Yes.
brought Shania Twain and Celine Dion into the classic
Right.
Divas thing. So I thought that was
I do remember that.
Right, it was a very big thing to happen. So that was the first time that took place that year. A British court ruled on May 8th that Yoko Ono was correct, and the rest of the Beatles live at the Hamburg Star Club would not be released because they were owned outright by the Beatles because it was their recordings. So she got that blocked in a court. So that was a big thing because
Damn, Yoko.
Beatles Hamburg recordings had been in legal jeopardy for a long time, and they were finally brought back into the fold of the Beatles. May 31st, Jerry Halliwell, if that's how you pronounce her last name, I believe I'm pretty right there, was leaving the Spice Girls at this point. So on May 31st, she left the Spice Girls permanently, and we've been one member down of the Spice Girls ever since. Very sad.
Spice up your life.
Yep. August 18th, Chord's third studio album, Follow the Leader, is released.
Oh, the one.
Billboard #1, 2,600 copies in the first week. It goes 5 times platinum, 14 million copies. So it really blasted metal into the mainstream, as they say. What else do we got here? August 25th, Lauryn Hill releases Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, probably the album of the year. It's such a great record, classic release.
Yeah.
And August 29th, the Bee Gees opened their Only for One Night tour in Dublin, Ireland. Very excited.
Wow.
Dude, when do you think TRL happened? With the first episode of TRL.
Was it 1998?
It was September 14th, 1998. So that was probably one of
Wow.
the biggest cultural things that happened that year.
I mean, that was...
I thought that was way before. I thought that was happening like the early 90s. It was not.
It makes sense, though, because you figure the height of TRL... That's what it was. It was like, I mean, and that adds up too, because like NSYNC releases their first record that year. The boy band, boom, the Britney Spears and the Christina Aguileras, and then all the offshoot, different versions of those things too. So yeah.
October 19th, Cher releases Believe. It is a huge song. It's off the album of the same name. It was a big, huge record. March 13th, 1990. And it went on to be the best-selling album in UK history. On March 13th, 1988, Believe became Cher's 5th #1 single in the U.S. So that was really exciting. Also, Cher is the only artist to have a #1 in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, I believe. Wow. So that's very exciting. October 23rd, Britney Spears releases Baby One More Time, the debut single. It would become the top-selling single of 1999, the next year. The copyright term extension law was passed in the United States, giving people 20 more years of works created from 1923 onwards. So that was big news. November 17th, The Offspring released Americana. It go on to be 5 times platinum, which was really big. Had the song Pretty Fly for a White Guy on it. So yeah, that was the year 1998. I will close you guys out with the top 10 songs of the year.
Let's get it.
Too Close by Next.
Oh.
Dancing that close. I don't know if that's that song. Is it? Yes. Okay, so we have The Boy Is Mine by Brandy and Monica. Yeah. You Are Still the One by Shania Twain.
Oh.
Can I hear a little bit of The Boy Is Mine?
Huh?
Just a little bit of The Boy Is Mine? You give me a little bit of it?
What?
A little singing of it.
Which one?
The Boy Is Mine.
The Boys. Which one's
by Brandy and Monica?
Oh no, I don't remember how that one goes.
Oh God, come on!
I thought you were gonna ask. You were on Shania Twain. I thought you were gonna ask me to go for a little Shania Twain.
Oh, you're still the one. Can you give me a little of that?
Still the one. You're still the one I run to. The one that I belong to.
Beautiful.
You're still the one I kiss. Good night.
So that would be your number 3 song of the year.
Killer
Thank
slide
you,
guitar, like
Michael.
a lap steel guitar.
We're gonna go Truly Madly Deeply by Savage Garden.
Oh.
How Do I Live by Leon Rimes. Together Again by Janet. All My Life by Casey and JoJo. Candle in the Wind, the 1997 Princess Diana tribute by Elton John.
Rest in peace.
Nice and Slow by Usher. And rounding out number 10 is I Don't Want to Wait by Paula Cole. I'm going to give you the top-selling albums of the year.
Okay.
This list may or may not be factual. The only list I could find was from the Tampa Times reporting on a Billboard list that I could no longer find. Number 1.
The Tampa Times.
The Tampa Times. Titanic soundtrack would be the number 1 selling album of 1998. Celine Dion, Let's Talk About Love. Garth Brooks, 7. Backstreet Boys. Shania Twain, Come On Over. We have number 6, Matchbox 20, Yourself or Someone Like You. 7 is City of Angels soundtrack. 8 is Will Smith, Big Willie Style. Would this be of 1998? Yeah, that was 1997 that one was released. 9 is Savage Garden, and 10 is Spice Girls, Spice World. So that may or may not be your list. It is from the Tampa Times. I could not find the top-selling albums
Thanks,
of
Tampa.
1998.
Yeah,
It is a unfindable list on the internet.
Wow.
So
Strange.
leaving us there, 1998.
Albums.
What are our album picks?
I'll go first.
Please.
So I was looking at the list of albums that were released, and there's albums that are on there that I look back at and go like, oh yeah, that was a good record, or oh yeah, that was a good record. But I was trying to think about what album actually came out in 1998 that I was actually listening to, and then it also made me chuckle because I was 9 years old, and my album pick, because it was an album that I was actually listening to, was DMX's Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood.
Yeah.
It was the follow-up album to It's Dark and Hell is Hot. There's all kinds of great features on there. Jay-Z's on there. Marilyn Manson is on there, and that song called The Omen, and it's just like Marilyn Manson's at the end, and he's just like, oh, what the hell is he chanting? You're going to die today or something like that. And DMX is like going like, kill, 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 kill. He's like doing this whole thing. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I listened back to this record earlier, and I was like sitting down and having dinner with my family, and I have a infant or toddler son at my house, and then I put it on and I was like, yeah, this is really not appropriate music to be playing around a 3-year-old. And then I thought about it, I was like, oh, this is really inappropriate music for a 9-year-old to be listening to, because that's how old that I was when I got it. But to be fair, this was the first record that I bought with my own money. I also tricked my mother into buying this album for me, being like, oh, it's not that bad. And then she heard it and she took it away. Mom actually took it away. Alex is my brother, for those who don't know. My mother took this CD away. I ended up finding it anyway. I ended up finding it in, I think, Dad's sock drawer. And I was like snuck listening to it. Oh, man. And then would put it back, and it was this like weird sort of game with DMX's Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. So that is my pick for 1998. It is there's all kinds of inappropriate language and stuff, and but it's DMX, man. He's one of the greatest rappers of all time. And the first two albums, he's the second artist in history to have two albums released in the same calendar year and both debut at number 1. Wow. And Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood is certified 3 times platinum. So it's one of the monumental hip hop albums, folks. And it's Yonkers, New York. He's a New York rapper. Swiss Beats. There's a couple other songs on the record that are produced by I think Irv Gotti's on one, and then DJ something or other. But Swiss Beats predominantly does it. Gives you that nice sort of dark, sort of New York kind of sound. Some of the like the fake trumpet style sample thing that like Rough Riders would be known to have and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's got stuff like that on
the
there.
Keyboard trumpets.
Yeah, the keyboard trumpets. So there you are, DMX.
I love your album pick.
Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood.
Shout out to our episode with Phil where we go hardcore on that HBO DMX documentary. Yeah. Please check that out because we really dive deep into everything that DMX was and really pay tribute to a legend. So
find the link in the comments.
Oh yeah, we'll put that link
ladies and gentlemen, Jeffrey May is back in the studio. Jeffrey May is in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay, Jeff.
Jeffrey May.
Can I add something to the year of 1998?
Yes, please.
Notable events that you forgot. In November, possibly the greatest song of all time was released, and that is the song Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Wait a minute, Jeff. Did he make the top singers of all time list?
In my heart.
Oh. Was that your only addition for 1998?
Yep.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Lenny Kravitz releases Fly, everybody.
Yeah.
So Alex, you chose a album for this, so let's hear what your pick is.
Yeah. My first time choosing an album for this, I was not born yet, but in retro, I looked at some of the albums.
Yo, you weren't born yet?
I was born in 1998.
October of 1998.
This album wasn't released yet. It was released before I was born, March 31st, and it is Gangstar's album. And it's their 5th album as a group. And it was probably their most successful album, their top album ever released, and it released number 1 on the R&B hip hop albums Billboard. Yeah. In its first week, it sold 97,000 copies, physical copies sold. Working is probably the most notable song on the album. It was used in like ESPN and a lot of other movies and stuff. And it just has like a great beat. And in 98, that's probably like the only thing that I would recognize as probably my favorite coming out of that. produced by Guru, and the final track, I think, is the only one that is produced with DJ Premier, who's a really big producer.
Yeah,
you really can't go wrong with DJ Premier. I'm not sure if that's who was on DMX's album as well.
No, that was Swiss Beats.
Swiss Beats.
But Premier did Mobb Deep. Premier did.
Yeah.
I mean, the list goes on.
He runs deep. Yeah,
he runs deep.
So, Gangstar's Moment of Truth.
Yeah, Moment of Truth, man. That's one of my favorites too. I love that. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff where Guru's, the message behind some of the music and stuff like that is kind of just like, hey man, like, this like street life is not really where it's at. Like, you know what I mean? Be more like
working?
Yeah, be more socially conscious, be more spiritually conscious, all that stuff. There's all kinds of
it averaged
like that.
just over a 4.5 or a 4 out of 5 of everything. Some 8s and stuff, but overall it averaged about a 4 out of 5, which is pretty good. I mean, it was a really good album.
Yeah, and for '98 too. Especially for a group like Gangstar, where they're kind of like, you could consider them older hat hip hop, right?
This is their last. I think this is their last studio album.
Their last big. Their last.
They might have been the kind of the last group that made it big that was based around a single MC and a single DJ.
Yeah,
like the Pete Rock, CL Smooth, like Eric B and Rakim.
Right.
So
yeah.
And DJ Premier, one of the greatest producers ever.
Yeah, and somebody who could completely capture, I think, the New York sound, like the sound of New York hip hop. It's all Premier. He just embodies everything New York hip hop to me anyway.
That's
also, this Gangstar album, Tribe Called Quest's third record, and there was another one. There was like
Mos Def and Talib Kweli.
Yes,
we're talking about for '98.
Yes, we're all released on the same day.
Oh, no way!
That's pretty cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
It's like one of the best days for like hip hop releases like of all time. So, pretty interesting there in 1998. Do you want me to
yes, please.
Sure,
to go? Yeah. I was super conflicted with this year. Because if I'm being honest with you, I did not listen to. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the records that were released in 1998. And though there are like big records that I like The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, they're not really things that I'm like jamming all the time. So I thought I'd just be really like honest with myself and the people of the show and pick probably what is not the most culturally like cool record, but the one I definitely listened to the most that was released in 1998.
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy.
Nope, we are going with Bright Eyes.
There it is.
Letting Off the Happiness. This is the first release from Bright Eyes, coming off his Prodigy Commander Venus project. This would be the first major release from the Bright Eyes band, which is Connor Oberst's project with other people augmented. You have Mike Mogis, who is the producer of this record, and other member of Bright Eyes on this record. So I chose this one because obviously not a record I listened to in 1998, but one I definitely listened to in high school so much, and out of high school really fell in love with everything that this record stood for, and I think it really influenced a lot of music that came after it that I also enjoyed. And so, that being said, this is a really lo-fi affair. It's acoustic-y. It is moody.
Is this the one that we were listening to earlier? And I was like, does that sound bad on purpose?
Yes. Yes. So
different, but yes.
Different, but yes.
That's what I meant.
I just want to shout out like some of the things that I really like about this record. Pull on My Hair, a track on this record, is really, really great. It has like synthy overtones and like dream poppiness, but it's still like one of those first like bedroomy styled songs that sounds releasable.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Is it like close to shoegaze, you think?
It has like overtones of like shoegazy like droopiness on it, with like super emo-y lyrics, but the whole vibe of it having like some of the electric stuff, and then having like a acoustic song like June on the West Coast before it, which is really heartfelt and one of the best songs I believe on that record. Also, when I was listening back, The City Has Sex is a classic. Like all these are really like Tumblr-y and of the MySpace era, even though this was released way before that. Some of the songs err on the embarrassing emotional side, but we should still keep in terms with like Weezer's Pinkerton and other records where sometimes it's okay to be embarrassing if you're kind of in on it. The next album, I think he would really turn a face to the I know who I am kind of thing with the reflection of the fevers and mirrors, the mirrors concept. But this record is just a start off of that, and it also begins with the crazy long intro that every Bright Eyes record has with the spoken word thing. So yeah, I think it holds up well. It is of the genre of music it is in. Neutral Milk Hotel, Elliott Smith.
Yep.
This Bright Eyes record should be thrown in there. I like this one because it has a bit more tones of like happiness or like upbeatiness. And like where like right because it's not like all one tone. Like an Elliott Smith record is like one toned a lot.
I'm gonna cry.
Where it's just like all acoustic and all sad. Where this is like a little punky at times, a little like
it has some speed to it.
Yeah, a little Pete Seegery at times, and then like a little experimental and fun. So probably not the record I'd say is probably the most critically best record of 1998, but this is my favorite record of 1998. We got Bright Eyes letting off the happiness. Jeffrey, can you switch out here on camera and give us your favorite, or off camera, whatever you would like, and give us your favorite record of 1998?
Yeah, I'll just do it from here.
Cool.
My favorite record of 1998 is The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which was, I would say, the first album by a woman that I deeply got into. I bought it when I was probably 15 years old from Walmart. Famously, this album only has a clean version. There's like some break spaces where she would curse, but it's only been released as a clean version. I still remember seeing the music video for Doo Wop That Thing, which is like the whole city is on a turntable. It's a very cool video. This is like, if not my absolute favorite female album ever, it's on the short list. When we did our favorite female albums, I think last year, it probably was my number one, and it would probably be right up there still. I do have a runner-up that it really was a toss-up because I loved Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, but this other album I also really enjoy, which is the third album by Outkast called Aquemini. It was the first Outkast album I ever bought, and it's their most psychedelic record, and Spodioti Dopalicious is maybe my favorite Outkast song. So that was very close. It was like a 1A, 1B type thing. But Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which, won, 5 to 7 Grammys that year, and was her only solo release, and was a huge, like, turning point in the mixing of R&B and hip-hop music, especially from a female performer. And it's still just a high watermark. So.
Right on, Jeffrey. Good, I'm glad you were here to shout out that record.
Yeah, I'm happy you made it in time, man.
Yeah. Outkast, too. Honorable mentions?
Yeah, I was going to say honorable mentions. I got a couple.
What do you got, Michael?
So Hellbilly Deluxe, Rob Zombie, was released in 1998. Can't forget the zombie himself. Devil Without a Cause from Kid Rock was released that year.
If I'm being
my name is...
if I'm going to be really, really honest.
That was probably the one you listened to the most that year?
Absolutely the number one record I listened to without a doubt in my mind. I know every song. I could rap you bars from that whole record.
Yeah,
it's
I like
terrible.
Did you say that's cringe?
I like the saloon piano interlude in the center of Cowboy, where it breaks into that like.
Tell Motown to come back home, motherfucker.
I got some more. Capital Punishment from Big Pun.
Yep.
Was released that year. Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. That's Jay-Z. Was released that year. Hello Nasty from the Beastie Boys was released that year. Madonna's Ray of Light. Follow the Leader from Korn.
I want to give you, Follow the Leader by Korn. That's a great record. I'm going to give you another. All my 1998 records are so cringe. The other one I have that I absolutely love but am so embarrassed by is the Goo Goo Dolls, Dizzy Up the Girl.
No, do not. Don't you dare feel cringe or embarrassed by that.
I did because I went back and I listened to it, and there are some terrible cringy songs on there.
No, it's the Goo Goo Dolls.
I'm going to shout out that record because I do like it, though. Yeah. I like it for nostalgic remembrance, and it's pretty good. Slide.
Yeah. Do you guys have any more? Do you have any honorable mentions?
I have 3 quick. Jeff mentioned Aquemini. I love that one. The art of storytelling. Aquemini itself. Great song. I actually listened to it in the gym the other day, so it's funny that we came around to this. I was listening to it, and I was like, oh, man, like this is heavy for lifting, for doing back workouts right now. Fugazi, a band I really do like, more punky. They have an album, End Hits, and they're like a really community-centered band, just really heavy, fast-hitting. One of my old coworkers no longer works with me. Showed me Fugazi, and I really appreciated that. And then 2, you mentioned Luke, Neutral Milk Hotel, In the Aeroplane, Over the Sea, slow, sad, not the greatest voice, but an album I do enjoy. And then Elliott Smith XO, Sad Boy Hours.
Also, let's shout out Mermaid Avenue by Wilco and Billy Bragg.
Merman.
Thank you.
Black luck, pop.
The album of what is his name? Woody Guthrie songs. It's they took the Woody Guthrie catalog and gave it to Billy Bragg and Wilco, and they reimagined these songs that had never been released in any form before, other than words. So very exciting.
That's cool.
Cool release.
Jeff, any honorable mentions?
The Titanic soundtrack.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But I did listen to that a lot in 1998.
Oh, come on now.
Sitting in my room with my CD player.
You're here.
Yeah, no, my only honorable mention is the Outkast record.
Yep.
Right on. All right. Well, there you have it. 1998. What are some favorite albums?
Devil Without a Cause. I'm going platinum.
Going platinum. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Iggy Fest. Don't go anywhere. Stick around. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Hofner Guitars. I have here the Hofner Shorty. It is a full-scale, travel-size guitar. You can find this and all of their products at hofnerguitars.com. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Get in the Garage.
We're a music podcast.
For music lovers.
Jeffrey is back in frame.
Yay.
The Trinity is restored. We are back in action. Thank you again to Alex, producer extraordinaire, for sitting in a moment of need, in a clutch moment. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Alex. Yes, onward we go to our Iggy Fest, as they say. Jeffrey, would you like to usher us into the opening ceremony?
I will.
Gentlemen over
Iggy
here.
Pop, considered the godfather of punk music, was born in Ann Arbor, Michigan in 1947. His real name is Jim Osterberg Jr. He was the lead singer of the Stooges, and we are going to discuss 3 of his albums from his career because his newest album was released this week.
Yes, it was.
And he's 75 years old. He is shirtless 98% of the time. He has the tanned leather skin of a Comanche Indian chief. And he is one of the, in my opinion, one of the greatest figures in American and rock and roll music history.
Yeah.
He's an artist I didn't get into until I was in my mid-20s, I would say at least. I just never sought out the Stooges, or maybe I was never like a punk guy, and since they were kind of like the first punk kind of group, I always was like, oh, well, that's going to be even rougher and worse than the shit I don't like, which is not true though, because as we will discuss with this first album, the Stooges, the self-titled album released in 1969, their music was more of like kind of like an angrier, dirtier, younger version of like kind of like the Doors aesthetic.
Yeah, sure.
Mixed with some like Velvet Underground, hypnotic, trancey, kind of grimy stuff. What do you guys think about that first Stooges album?
I mean, I myself am a Funhouse guy. I think if I'm reaching for a Stooges record, that's the first one that I reach for. But it was fun listening to this album, going back and listening to this one again. Probably the Stooges album that I've listened to the least, or I reach for the least. I don't know. Raw Power, I don't really listen to that one a whole bunch either. However, that being said, yeah, I mean, I like this record, man. There's some great moments on here. There's some doomy moments, which I think is really cool too, considering it's what's 1969. 69. So
it's 1969, baby.
Yeah, 69. I love this record. I like it. There's one sort of sore spot for me on this album.
Spot.
I think we'll get to that. But so like Jeff said, this is Doors reflecting. It's on the same record label, Elektra Records. Danny Fields, famous manager, signed the Stooges and the MC5 on the same day, both from Ann Arbor, Michigan. And the Stooges album is produced by legendary Velvet Underground member John Cale, which is also of note. So Elektra Records knew kind of what to do without their artist and let an outside artist produce this relatively unknown band. I think it's of note that these songs sound like they're not quite baked in a good and bad way, in the greatest way and in the worst way. I'm going to say there's 3 real songs on here that were probably songs before they went in the studio. That's 69, Dog, and No Fun. Everything else seems like it was kind of written in the studio and jammy. I love this record because I think it is what the punk thing is the best, which is attitude above anything else. And the attitude of this record is that outsider, nobody gets me, aggressive, sexual in weird ways. It has all of that baked into one, which makes it a very exciting record for its time and even of its day. Also, you said like Stooges records you listen to. This is the first one I listened to. I bought this at the Music Box in Providence, Rhode Island on CD on my birthday when I was 20 years old. And the record clerk was very impressed with it, and it made me very satisfied and happy.
Yeah.
Yes. It
You were the cool youngster buying a Stooges album?
Buddy, the guy talking, he's like, this is a great record. He's like, this is really cool. And I felt so cool. And then I put it on in the car. I didn't get it till 6 months to 2 years later.
Yeah.
But,
It's a great record, man. It's a great, and I love it too because it brings some of that, kind of like Black Sabbath would do a year or two later. It brings in this sort of dark kind of element to what would be the sort of flower, peace and love, hippie thing of the late 1960s. This is spitting in your face and just raw, just aggression. Even the fuzz on this album, it just sounds, if you're looking at the fuzz that say maybe the Rolling Stones had used, or the fuzz, it's just got this big gnarly crazy fuzz, especially in the beginning of I Want to Be Your Dog, and then the chromatic kind of thing going on. It's just, I love it. I think it's
We Will Fall.
Timing was
the studio creation, which is the monk Byzantine chanting. Jeff, into that song.
I think this is a perfect side A, which is 1969, I Want to Be Your Dog, and We Will Fall. And then side B is a little less for me. A little fact about this album: this was produced by John Cale, who oversaw the recording. But when they turned in the tapes to Elektra, they rejected his mix because it was tamer and more experimental and didn't capture the live angriness of the band. So Iggy Pop and Elektra founder and president Jacques Holzman went into the studio and mixed it louder and grittier and more gain. You can find the John Cale original mix though on all the deluxe issues.
That's a great point because
and they're cool to A and B because they aren't really that much different. It's just you jam up the volume on the one that was released.
Bit more rough.
Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts, or you want to give this a ranking, a rating?
I would say this is a 8, but it's so classic in every other way. Kind of bumps up to a 10. My other final note is I don't think there's a better sexually charged song ever written than I Want to Be Your Dog. It's up there. It's really weird for its time. It's still weird for its time. It's such good and such a bold statement. So that's what I'm
the best song about S&M featuring Jingle Bells.
Dude, that's Jingle Bells and hand claps.
Jeffrey,
and
thank you.
2-note piano chords the whole time.
Thank you for expressing what I couldn't say.
Yes. Would you give it 8.5 or 8?
I said 8.
8. I'll go with you there. I'll meet you there. I think it's a solid 8 as well. It's great. It's the proto-punk thing, which, if you want to go to proto stuff, which I'm always a really big fan of the proto stuff, this is on the same thing as Blue Cheer being proto-metal. It's the same thing as, it's that kind of thing where it's this is really the birth place of like loud, heavy rock and roll, like blues and R&B influenced rock and roll. This is just another one of those offshoots, and then everything that was to come afterwards was, heavily influential on everything that followed. And now we have bands like the OCs and all that kind of stuff. So solid 8 for me.
This is an 8.5 for me. This is the first Stooges album, first Iggy album I got into. Like Mike said, I do like Funhouse more, but this is a very solid band. They released 3 albums in their like first incarnation, and they're all great albums.
Right on.
The second album in our 3-album retrospective is Iggy Pop's second studio solo release. It's called Lust for Life. It was released in 1977. It's 9 songs. It's about 42 minutes long. Produced by Iggy Pop, David Bowie, his close friend, and Colin Thurston, the engineer. It was recorded in West Berlin, where Iggy and David Bowie were both kind of sequestered. Exiled to get over their drug habits, but in a way like get deeper into their drug habits, unfortunately. Yeah. It's a very cool album. It's known especially for its title song, Lust for Life, which I think is track 1. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about this album? Oh, and also the very famous cover. Can you give us the cover, Luke? Give us your impression of the cover. Thank you.
Yes, and like I was saying to Mike the other day, the iconic cover shot, the photographer, which I don't know his name, said, I captured... not Iggy, but like James, like who he was as a real person in that shot, and
we don't have the name of the middle school photographer that took the picture.
It's so
for his yearbook.
It's like he took it backstage on a
most
talk
likely
show.
to smear himself with peanut butter. That was his superlative.
He's about
sing while eating broken glass.
He's about to go on a talk show before that photo was taken, so that's like the mood he was in. Like so he's very like, I'm here to talk.
No, I am not on 6 pounds of cocaine now.
Thank you.
No. Who, Iggy?
So
old Iggy?
Iggy Pop's Lust for Life. The Idiot precedes it earlier in the year, recorded before. This is Iggy Pop's, I think. The Idiot was an artsy record, an experimental record. This is, I think, was meant to be Iggy Pop's real thrust into stardom. I think this was a real try for it. This is a very strong record. I think Iggy wrote a lot of his best material I think he would ever write, landed on this record. It seems that the production is really favored or helped by David Bowie, in contrast with like the other output of Iggy Pop's solo career. It seems very focused here, very much in like the glammy Bowie sense, but also a lot in what Iggy Pop had laid in the foreground in like heavier rock. What benefits here is like bridges and choruses and song structure, where Iggy wouldn't really know how to structure a song like that, being more of a lyrics and feel kind of guy. So I think that's where the album is really, really helpful. And then the song content is one of his best records. I mean, I told Mike the other day, Turn Blue is probably my favorite Iggy Pop song. It's it's really like, I mean, solo stuff, not Stooges, but very heavy song. Good stuff on here.
I really enjoyed this record. I was shocked to find out that this was recorded in 8 days. This album was completed in like 8 days. Oh yeah, it was like a rapid fire record,
1970 style.
Dude, just straight up. And I like this record
not a lot
too.
of sleep in those 8 days.
It's no, none at all. Well, the whole I think I had seen a quote where Iggy Pop was just like, "Oh, David Bowie's a fast guy and he always works fast, so I felt like I had to keep up with him." Up with him.
He works fast.
Yeah, right. So they recorded the album in 8 days, which is pretty even fueled with cocaine is still pretty impressive.
That's a month on cocaine.
That's a month. At the very least. So I enjoyed it. I thought there was some cool stuff. We talked about Lou Reed's Transformer.
I was going to say, how did you think it related? Because I think it sounds somewhat similar, but very much more masterful.
Right, and that's the thing, too, because Transformer was, 72? So this is 5 years later. So, Bowie definitely has his space dust that he sprinkles on this record, for sure. There's some cool moments. What did I write down? I thought the song Tonight had some Bowie sort of stuff kind of thrown over it. Some Weird Sin. It's like Bowie meets like Josh Homme. There's this sort of thing that I noticed where I'm like, oh, I can hear where Josh Homme was getting some of his influences from this, because you get that sort of, I don't know what to call it, but it's that.
Also, Some Weird Sin sounds like, I know you probably don't know this song, but also sounds a lot like Mission to Burma's Sometimes I Reach for My Revolver, in the way that Iggy Pop goes, sometimes I reach for that weird sin, that Some Weird Sin, and they steal the hook and say, so I reach for my revolver, and like a lot of the same kind of lyrical melody ways, but like Josh Homme.
It's got that vibe. I found there were 3 songs that I had starred that I thought sounded sort of that Josh Homme like influence. Some Weird Sin, The Passengers, and Fall in Love with Me. I thought those 3 songs, I heard like a vocal delivery that I thought was like, oh, okay, I can hear some of this Josh Homme influence. I think Fall in Love with Me is that the one? Yeah, it's got like a guitar sound that's like in the room, but it's not like, it doesn't sound like the mic is right up against the amp. It sounds like it's kind of in the room. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was recorded really well. I think the album sounds really cool. This was my first time listening to this album. I've heard the song Lust for Life, but I have never actually sat down and listened to this album in full. And it was very interesting to listen to these albums in succession as well, to hear that sort of thing. But I couldn't help but always, as Luke and I said, the Transformer thing, because for me, that's my reference point. So I go, okay, well, here's Bowie collaborating with another person. That person's the solo artist, and David Bowie's kind of the guy, at the control room or whatever. So... yeah, also, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Tonight, the song you mentioned sounding very Bowie-y was covered by Bowie and would end up on his album.
Yeah, like 6 years later.
Yes. Yeah. So,
to say this is like, there's some Bowie influence. Bowie wrote like 80% of the music on this album.
Yeah.
So, and he did backup vocals on most tracks, and he did piano type stuff, keyboards, organ on a bunch of songs. Like, I think Some Weird Sin is the one that has a lot of like fuzzed out low octave organ stuff all
also
over.
Great cowbell on that track.
Yeah.
Claps.
And this is 10 years into his career, and this is like more realized and adult, so to speak, compared to the Stooges stuff. It's a little bit more sophisticated. It reminded me of, kind of in a way, like another person who, you said Josh Homme, takes stuff from Bowie and from Lou Reed and from Iggy Pop, but the latest like Arctic Monkeys style stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's some of that like kind of almost ironic keyboard stuff on this album. There's some of that kind of almost ironic like soulful crooniness on this album.
Yep.
Which I think Iggy Pop does very well, is that kind of like the Frank Sinatra of the gutters. I don't know. Like, he does that.
If Frank Sinatra was a New York City rap.
But that's what makes a song like Turn Blue on here so good, is where he's like doing that croon, and he comes in on the like Elvis would do. So funny and good. And also where he says like, Jesus, this is Iggy, which is like really funny, because like he's laying down, and he's like, all right, I'm a junkie, man. Like, I know. Like, that's the whole song. It's the junkie lament. It's very interesting and great record.
This was the first time I had listened to it in full since I was like 20 years old, so in about almost like 15 years.
So it's been some time.
Oh yeah.
Some
ratings.
I'm gonna give this a 9.5.
Whoa.
Wow.
I really like this record.
Holy bananas, right.
I think it holds up. I think it's Iggy Pop's best solo record. I mean, like 1-2 with like, if whatever you're feeling that day. If you're feeling more synthy, you go with The Idiot. If you're feeling more rock and roll, you can go with this. I feel like this is, like you said, it's the matured out version of him, and just for the Effacing Turn Blue, to come back from what you were, like what he was in the Stooges was like, you really had like run that dry of like the nihilistic like person, and to like come back and self-efface with like an album that talks about this in a lot of interesting ways is really cool.
Right on.
9.5.
I'm gonna go 8.5. I really like this album. I think it's cool. I'm a Stooges guy at heart, so but I also love David Bowie, and I love what David Bowie does all over this record as well. Strong 8.5 for me, man. I like this album.
Yeah, I'd say this is a 9 for me. I think it's a great album. I wouldn't say it's flawless, but like it's pretty
it's
up
not
there.
it's got like its flaws, but it's got so much character that it kind of like grows on you depending on who you are.
Yeah.
The flaws for me are more like I'm not fully into this style of thing.
Yes.
But like if I loved this style of music, this is like the one.
Right.
Before we leave, could we just talk about the rhythm on the song "Lust for Life," which everybody has probably heard, but the rhythm track on that
is that the "Are You Gonna Be My Girl"?
One of the best rhythms of all time. Also, I showed it to Mike the other day. Every 16 bars on the intro, another instrument is added that adds to the rhythm and adds this like crazy David Bowie, Phil Spector thing that is like really cool.
Yeah.
So before we leave, shout out to that.
Shout out to Lust for Life.
And the third album we're going to talk about, the newest release from 75-year-old Iggy Pop. It's his 19th studio album. It's called Every Loser. It is 11 songs. It's still a cool, crisp 37 minutes long. It's produced by Andrew Watt, who is one of the big producers currently. He won the Grammy for Producer of the Year last year. He produces for Justin Bieber and Post Malone and Dua Lipa
and Ozzy Osbourne.
He's a guitar player. He's a very good guitar player. He plays guitar on every track on this album, and he does backing vocals. He plays bass on a few songs. He does programming. He does keyboards on 6-7 songs. This is a cool album, mixed by Alan Moulder, who is the longtime collaborator with Nine Inch Nails, with Smashing Pumpkins. This features a lot of like his Iggy Pop's friends in music, because all of the musicians on this album are people you know. So that's
go for it.
Duff McKagan on bass on a few tracks from Guns N' Roses. Chad Smith, drummer for Red Hot Chili Peppers, plays drums on like 80% of the album. Josh Klinghoffer, formerly of Red Hot Chili Peppers, plays guitar on a few tracks, keyboards on a few tracks. Stone Gossard of Pearl Jam plays on a song. Travis Barker drums on a song. Taylor Hawkins plays drums on a couple songs. Chris Chaney and Eric Avery, both formerly bassists of Jane's Addiction, play on a song or two each. Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction plays on a song, plays on, I believe, the last song.
Presented by Taco Bell.
Yes, and that's all the artists on this album. It's Iggy Pop and a dozen dudes who are all mid-40s to 60-year-old, like fucking 30-year-old music scene veterans.
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't sound like a bunch of old dudes playing in a room. Like,
oh, not at all.
Watts, being a younger guy, I believe he's in his early 30s, being the producer and guitarist on everything, he kind of modernizes it, but it's not like, hey, I'm an old man trying to sound cool. It still sounds like an Iggy Pop record. Vocally, he does the old, like, leather throated, like, on a couple songs, but on, like, the really punky things, he's, like, shredding it out, and he sounds 21 on
he doesn't
bunch
sound
of these
bad.
songs.
Yeah, his voice sounds pretty youthful still.
On the punk stuff, it did sound youthful and into it. I don't know if I was into it. I'm more into his croony style as he's gotten older. I fell in love with post pop depression. That was produced by Josh Homme a couple years ago, and was really into that, and he did that on that record. This is a mixture of those two styles, like you had said. I'm not sure I liked it all that much. It seemed like it's I couldn't tell if it was like the record company was like, put some couple fast ones on there, and like maybe he was like, okay, I'll just do that, even though I kind of maybe wanted to like write more personal styled songs. The croony style song that I think stands out the most for me on here would be New Atlantis, where he writes this like love letter to where he's lived for, I believe, like the past like 10 or 20 years, Miami. And it's not my favorite song on earth, but it's the most artistically fruitful on here that tells me who Iggy Pop is in this current 75-year-old age. He's a man who loves Miami, and I can get into that. I can get into leather-skinned Iggy Pop living in Miami, singing about like what goes on there.
Because he doesn't have to wear a shirt ever. That's why.
Right.
That's why he loves it.
No sunscreen ever.
And I liked tracks like that where I'm like, I can get into this even though it's not my favorite style. It was more like done like the modern rock pop production, which was, but that was more interesting. Where like I didn't really like it was Neopunk and Frenzy, where like he was like, this is shit and fucking this, and like I felt like it was vulgar for like kind of like the reason just to be vulgar. And I feel like those were waters we had treaded with like Cock in My Pocket back in like 1974.
It's a rooster, for crying out loud.
It's a metaphor.
So, do you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like it was a bit unnecessary, but like we said, like it sounds good. It's just not artistically what I'm like really craving from an Iggy Pop at this age. Also to note, like you said, all these great cool guys on here. This is the same like crew that recorded the Ozzy Osbourne record that we reviewed a few months ago. Chad Smith was on drums for like all of that record. Duff was on that record. The only person that's was really on the Ozzy record that's not on here is Rob Trujillo from Metallica. So I thought that was very interesting to note that this producer Andrew Watt seems to have a wrecking crew of like classic musicians who are now making classic backing tracks for these older rock stars, it seems, and it seems like it's working really well. This album is really good if you are an Iggy Pop fan. You kind of want to hear him just do that style, or if you want to hear him like punk rock out. So that's what I'm kind of leaving it. Where are you?
I'm gonna be honest, I hated what's Atlantis, the new Atlantis song.
Sure.
I hated that song. I don't like any of the croony stuff that he does on this record. I don't love it. I hate it, actually. And it's, no Atlantis. And, I don't need 2 spoken word interludes on an album either.
Oh, those are my favorite tracks, maybe.
Those were absolutely my favorite tracks as well, Jeff, because it let me know who he was. Yeah. He's a goddamn weirdo.
Yeah, I don't care that you're a weirdo.
I want a whole album of just
wear some sunscreen.
Yeah.
I like the faster stuff. I really didn't care for the slower stuff. What the hell is the Regency anyway?
Oh my god! Yo, I hated
that was a good song.
Yo, I hated that song. What the fuck is the Regency?
The Regency are people appointed to positions of power.
Oh, so all right, I get it.
A regent. It could be Supreme Court turnover that happened in the past year. It could be. It's all political.
What happened to just be like, this is no fun. Fun. I have to look up what the fuck Regency means.
I have to Google
words down.
God damn.
I have to expand my vocabulary. How dare you?
How does he go from rubbing peanut butter all over his body to using confusing?
He's wearing a powdered wig and he's a quill writing about the Regency.
Fuck the Regency.
Did you guys like Morning Show? I thought that was a really strong track on here. That was the one.
You want to hear my notes for Morning Show? Morning Show dash. Blah.
I only wrote down my 3 favorite songs.
Stuff. I didn't like the slow stuff.
That was the one where he was like, I put on my morning face. I liked that song because I was like, yeah, that's Iggy Pop at 75.
I get that it's more of an artistic statement than like the neopunk and like the faster stuff. Frenzy, I don't like that song.
I
either.
liked that song.
But I like what I really liked.
We are wildly divided.
What I really liked was the Jimmy Kimmel live performance of Frenzy, where he's out of tune the entire time, and he looks like a microwaved mushroom. He looks so terrible. Like, what the hell is going on?
That band performed. Chad Smith was in the band.
Yeah. Duff was up there. The dude from
was up there.
Yeah. So I don't know, Jeff. How did you feel about this album? Because
well, sound wise, like I liked. I thought Watt did a good like Ron Ashton, James Williamson impression. Those were the 2 lead guitarists from the early days of the Stooges. I thought I liked especially the 2 tracks drum wise that Taylor Hawkins played on, which were the closer Regency and like track 9, which I think was called Comments. They're like that Taylor Hawkins like hard rock disco type of stuff. I liked Frenzy because of the vocal performance, because everything has pitch correction on it to a point nowadays, but I can tell when it's like, yeah, this has been really fudged with, and that didn't sound like that. It sounded like real vocals, and he sounded youthful and young, and it sounded good. My issues with this album are like the same issues I just have with this genre, which is like whatever the messaging is, it's like I just let the dude do his thing, because some of the songs he's trying to like the deep metaphors that don't land or whatever, it's like who cares, because he's also like singing lyrics about like my cock and my two balls and stuff. So it's like,
yeah, right.
Or like there was a song. There's a song he rhymed bird with turd on one song.
Yo, that's where I'm at on this record because like post-pop depression.
He's a poet. You wouldn't get it.
Post-pop depression from a couple years ago is not written like this. It's written like really artfully and interesting, and all the songs are like really scaped out nice. Where this is more of like a punk rock like circle jerk kinda in a way, which I don't think is like.
But how we talked about on previous episodes about how like pop punk has made a resurgence in the last year.
Yes,
I not that there's anything to forgive, but like I forgive what he's doing on this because he hooked up with the biggest producer in the game today. He made an album that sonically sounds good. It's not like fucking Lulu by Lou Reed and Metallica. Like it sounds good. And I think he's probably trying to do like, this is my last year or two of trying to play some bigger stages, connect with the 15 to 25-year-old generation as the founder of this type of music. And because I don't know, like like you named the track Morning Show, and it's like that in one ear and out the other, but to me it wasn't like a bad song. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like we said, it's about attitude. It's about performance. It's about the whole like packaging and just putting yourself out there as an artist. It's not like what notes you're hitting and what the guitar is playing necessarily for this kind of music.
Yeah. So
I thought it was fine.
He is taking his Godfather of punk like thing and kind of like being like, I'm doing in the new generation, and it's cool. Like I let Ozzy get away with it. I'm just a bit more critical on like an Iggy Pop because I'm like, you know
better.
Oh, see, I'm not, because he has done so much weirdness in his career that it's like, hey, you want to make an accessible thing that might try to get on modern rock radio, 1 or 2 tracks, whatever, man, because it's different than doing like spoken word soup.
Oh, like, I'm down. Yeah. I'm just like I'm make Lulu. I'd rather you make Lulu.
Oh, here we go. All right, well, let's do ratings then real quick because this is the new album review of the week after all.
All right, Luke, hit us.
I'm gonna hit this for this a 6 because it's again it's a fine record. Just some of the writing's lazy, and that's really, and all the things I said. It's a 6. That's where I'm at.
I'll go for the same rating. I'll say it's a 6.2, just the opposite side of that coin, where Luke liked maybe some of the croonier sort of slowed down stuff and wasn't really a big fan of the faster stuff. I'm the opposite end. I didn't like that slower stuff as much, but I did like the higher pace stuff. And like Jeff said, I mean, his voice sounds great screaming into a microphone still, so credit where credit is due. So, I'll say 6 as well.
This is in the Journey zone for me. This is a 7 because like that Journey record we reviewed a couple months ago, this is to me an old guard dude making an album trying to be modern and like push it to the masses, and it doesn't sound like a sellout money grab bullshit badly done auto-tuned to death thing.
Yeah.
Like this is a fine record. If you like Iggy Pop, check it out because you'll be like, oh, the dude's still doing it, and he's 75 years old, and he's still rocking and reeling and shirtless and screaming to a mic. And if you're looking for some artistic thing, this isn't what it is.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. What do you guys think? Do you like the new Iggy Pop? Do you like Lust for Life? Do you like the first Stooges record? What's the best era of Iggy Pop? Tell us in the comments below, guys. There you have it. Episode number, what would this be?
127.
127 has come to a close, but before we officially say goodbye, like, comment, subscribe, drop us a line. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Also, we take requests, so if you have any requests that you'd like to hear us talk about or anything like that as well, go ahead, jot that down. Also, rate us on Apple Podcasts as well, please, because that definitely helps awaken the primordial algorithm, all that good stuff. Until next week, guys, this has been Get in the Garage. We'll see you next time.